or they try to.
Hi, and welcome back to the Pittsburgh Business Virgin. We're sitting here with Kate and Irving of Tucker Arensberg, a business law firm, full-service business law firm located downtown Pittsburgh. Myself, Jim Wells, and Brad Hilbert, through his wealth, we're sitting here talking to them about some of the more common mistakes that we'll see business owners make, whether it's getting started or years into the business. That's kind of where we want to lead off with this part. So, Kate, as working as an employment attorney, what are some of the more common mistakes that you've seen over the years of practice?
Well, I think in general, all business owners have employees, and that's a critical part of any business. And so for the new business owner, I think that oftentimes the new business owner thinks, I'm too small for those laws to apply to me. Their employment law, and any business owner has to realize that there are laws that protect their employees, not only protect their employees, but regulate that area, workers' compensation, overtime, fair labor standards. And the new business owner thinks that perhaps they have too less employees
I have all my posters in my kitchen. I just want you to know, I especially put up that cork board knowing that you were coming today.
But so for those purposes, I think that the small business owner needs to realize what laws do apply to them before disregarding them, and so that's a major issue.
What do you think the key is to keep people? I mean, first thing is what I'm getting from your conversation or sort of your direction is that understanding that those are pertinent to you, whether you like to believe it or not. But then, what are sort of some of the best practices, do you think?
Best practices as far as employment is concerned is to, one, have a good timekeeping system, making sure that your employees, you keep accurate time records, because typically those are some of the issues, overtime issues. An employee is entitled to be paid overtime after 40 hours a week if they're an hourly employee under the law. And if they're working voluntarily, sometimes a small business owner might think that they're not required to pay them overtime, or that the employee perhaps could waive the ability to be paid overtime. And that's simply not true. So a lot of those misconceptions about timekeeping, overtime wages are all issues for the small business owner, as well as documentation. If you're an established business, oftentimes you give your employees reviews. And I think it's important to be critical and honest, open and honest about your employee's performance. Sometimes you want to sort of shelter that employee, build them up during that review time. When years later, you can have an employee for 10 years, it comes time to perhaps terminate them or do a layoff, unfortunately, or their performance isn't up to par. And that could lead to a problem when you're looking back and you've given them all of these false positive reviews.
Yeah, because that comes down to now there's documentation basically saying they're superstars, and meanwhile you're saying, hey, they got to go because they haven't fulfilled their requirements,
exactly,
or they're not living up to your standards. How about yourself, Irving? What are some of the things that you see out there?
The biggest mistakes that I see, are things they come to me after the fact. So, for example, someone has a business and they want to expand. So they're saying, well, I'm just going to move my business into the adjacent property next to mine. I'm sure that'll be fine. I'll just go ahead and start building there. And then they get a call from the local building inspector and say, you're not zoned properly. You're not allowed to expand, for example, your retail business into the next lot. They're halfway through the project, and then they call me and say, Irv, can you get me out of this? And so, at that point, we worked through it and tried to get it resolved. But had they talked at the beginning and recognized that there's some planning involved, those kind of things can be eliminated. You don't have the bigger problem that you could have gotten.
So what do you think of best practices from the standpoint of when someone's thinking about that whole expansion process?
Well, the best business people that I've seen, they know what they don't know. Their expertise is in their particular business. So what they try to assemble around them is, if they're going to expand into a new location, they get a good real estate broker, they get an attorney, they have an accountant that maybe save them some money on some tax issues, and they pull the professionals together to give them the advice on the things they don't know. Now, in terms of the business savvy,
stick them all in one room and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm thinking about doing. What are the potential issues.
That's worked very well for people. That's what I see when the business people are serious about what they're doing. You get everybody in a room. You know what you want as the business person, and say, how do I get this done? What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And with those experts, they can go a long way.
So it's almost like a round table of experts. I mean, and a sounding board is basically what good business owners do.
That's I agree.
All right. And the business owner is also going to be willing to spend for those professionals to come in and help them out to help them avoid some of those mistakes that
you pay for it in the end. If not,
well, it's much less expensive to talk going at the beginning and how do you plan for it than when you've actually made a mistake and you've got for example you've got an overtime problem where the Department of Labor come in and you have Kate get involved and
where the billable hours would have been a lot cheaper to get the zoning done prior to actually starting to build a building on that lot.
Absolutely.
As an example, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're going to come back with Kate and Irv, talk more about sort of the do's. What are best practices that you see both small business startups as well as established business owners doing to take their business to the next level? And we'll be right back with our next segment here at the Pittsburgh Business Virgin.